Speaking of being screwed, here's Joe Biden. He was on with Yasmin I can't say her name, Vasugian. Yasmin on, and this must have been early AM this morning, was it? Or was it over the weekend, Brendan? That was today. Okay, yeah, this is the early show. So or yesterday afternoon. Sorry, I guess different people are filling in. And here's Joe Biden saying that Medicare for All would not alleviate this crisis. Wrong on both ends of this.
I do have one final question for you, because as you've been seeing, our healthcare system seems to be crumbling underneath this crisis. There is not enough. There's not enough support for the healthcare system. There's not enough support for the American people inside of the healthcare system. Are you now reconsidering your position when it comes to single-payer healthcare?
Single payer will not solve that at all. The thing that is needed is, for example, we have a whole number of hospitals that are being so stretched, including rural hospitals, they're going to need more financing. That doesn't come from a single payer system. That comes from the federal government stepping up and dealing with the concerns that they have, the reimbursement that they're going to get, how they're going to be able to move forward, and how they're going to be able to provide all the needed help that are needed in their communities. This is an opportunity to look at reconstructing the healthcare system in a way that, in fact, can respond more rapidly and more effectively to these kinds of crises, because it's going to come again.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking a very, very limited view of this. Yeah. Obviously, yes, hospitals are in need of resources in terms of doctors and ventilators and personal protection equipment, and they need cash to purchase these things to the extent that they're available. But there's two things. One, on one end of it, people may have gone in to see a doctor earlier. You flatten the curve on the front end if they had insurance. We also have an incident of at least one person being turned away, a teenager, because he had no insurance. He died. Mm-hmm. But on the back end, right? Because we've had now, I don't know, the numbers haven't come out for last week, but I would be surprised if the numbers that we get tomorrow or the next day don't show that 7, 8, 9, 10 million Americans have lost their jobs.
Right.
There goes their health insurance.
Health insurance, exactly. As long as your health insurance is tied to your employment, and we're about to go into the highest unemployment in history. Come on, man.
I mean,
a bunch of malarkey.
It's a bunch of malarkey. Exactly. It is about so you have millions of people losing their health care because they have lost their jobs. The anxiety alone is problematic. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? They're all going to go into Obamacare. They're all you're going to go into Medicaid. I mean, how does this is just a massive undertaking to deal with just the health insurance for these people. And if we had Medicare for All at this point, we wouldn't even be thinking about it. It would be completely off the table. To deal with what the Fed is saying, we could have 30% unemployment. You're talking, I think it's 40 million people, possibly. This is probably on the outside. They're saying that total job losses, I don't want to freak anybody out, but this is what the Fed is saying. 47 million people could lose their jobs. And I don't know how many of them will lose their health insurance on day one. They won't be able to afford Cobra. Cobra is going to be out of, completely nuts. I mean, the idea that you have to figure out on the fly in the midst of all of this,
right?
In the midst of all of it, how are we going to get 47 million people who had health insurance 3 weeks ago? How are we going to get them insurance in a week? If we had Medicare for All, that would just be something you just don't even consider. That's basically like, everybody, I'm trying to think of an analogy, but there is nothing that is this sort of big in our lives. Like, everybody had their own personal stash of toilet paper. So nobody has to worry about toilet paper or it's basically everybody has their own toilet paper and their own, hand sanitizer, unlimited supply in their closets. If we had to take that off the table right now, there'd be a lot of people in much better shape. just in this immediate moment. But this is so much bigger than that. And people are going to die because they lost their job.
So, okay, if we were to look at the math, like the pie chart, the percentage of Americans on Medicare already, then the percentage of Americans that are going to lose their jobs, then the percentage of Americans that are already uninsured or under age tied to their parents. What is the slice of Americans that's actually left insured? And at that point, you have health insurance companies who are going to be losing a shit ton of money. So the argument may not even work anymore for these health insurance companies. I don't see an option at this point for Democrats and possibly even for Donald Trump, but to move to immediate Medicare for all, because we can't process all these people. And the way that we're equipped right now, it's not financially feasible for our economy to do so.
Private health insurance, you're talking probably around 160, 165 million Americans. If it is the case that 45 million, let's say, I don't know, these are all projections, lose their health insurance, lose their jobs and their health insurance. You're talking about a third of the customer base of the risk pool, right? That is presumably there. I don't know how that insurance system, I do know how it survives. And it survives because all of a sudden we're going to now subsidize these health insurance. And we could take those trillions of dollars that supposedly are, where would we ever find this money? Now we're just going to give it to the private health insurers. Right.
That's only working with how many Americans? A third of Americans at that point, potentially. So 2/3 of Americans will be forced to go onto some sort of government program. You're already there, guys. We are already almost there with the projected unemployment costs. So think about that. You want your incrementalism. Guess what? It was just delivered to you on a platter.
Exactly. There it is. People can now decide if they like their private insurance. Boy.
No, and that's the other thing. People are going to get, there's going to be a point where people are going to get angry that small businesses are going to get angry that they have to pay for people while so many are being forced to go into government insurance programs.
Yep.
Medicaid and Medicare. And so they're going to say, we can't afford it.
Yep.
We can't afford to keep the lights on and pay insurance for our employees. So either we're laying off our employees, shutting down, or we're not paying for the insurance.